If you've clicked on this video looking for an in-depth technical review of all of the video features packed into the Fuji X-T4 camera, then you are definitely on the wrong video. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to review the Fuji X-T4. It's going to be a very honest review, a very real-world review from a solo video creator's point of view. And if you're wondering what a solo video creator is, it's basically a posh word of saying vlogger or YouTuber. That's what I am. I've had this camera for 2 months now. I bought it with my own money. I've used it extensively and I feel well qualified to talk about this camera from a video standpoint. Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm a landscape photographer. I document my landscape photography adventures from all over the world, which means I am always out in very adverse conditions, in extreme environments. So I need cameras that are really, tough and put to the test. I'm always putting cameras to the test. What you should know is I'm not a technical guy. I couldn't give two hoots about 7-bit 244 profiles with H-log, C-log, D-log, J-log and K-log. Really not interested in that at all. What I want is a camera that works, a camera that I can switch on and get excellent footage straight out of the bag, and a camera that is going to lift my YouTube channel to that next level and deliver that video production quality that we all should come to expect from solo video creators these days. Can the Fuji X-T4 deliver on that? And is it worth spending your hard-earned money on? Let's give it an honest review. So I'm going to come at this from a very no-nonsense approach, and a quick message to Fujifilm: if by some miracle you are watching this, anything bad I say about this camera is only because I care. Right, straight in, let's not mess around. Image quality. Let's talk about it. Now, image quality with video is many different things. It's resolution, it's dynamic range, it's the color, it's the feel, it's the look, it's the sensor, it's all kinds of things. When you switch on a camera and hit record, you want it to look as good as it possibly can. I think that this camera, the X-T4, is one of the best on the market, even though it's a crop sensor, even though it's not the most expensive. The video footage that comes out of this camera is phenomenal, and it's the main reason why I upgraded to this camera. I wanted my YouTube channel to go to 4K, right? This shoots excellent 4K, no crop, not that I'm aware of anyway, maybe a minute one, but no crop, and it's superb. The dynamic range, I need dynamic range and low light capabilities in what I do. I'm out in nature, no studio lighting, not a controlled environment by any stretch of the imagination. I quite often film in low light situations, pre-sunrise or after sunset, or in a dark tent or a woodland or a camper van. So I need a camera that looks good in low light. This is fantastic. The image quality from this camera is superb. When I shoot 4K footage at ISO 6400 in a dark environment, the image looks, it looks tasteful. There's no noise. The highlights have all the detail. The shadows are lifted and have the detail. It looks tasteful. It looks soft in a good way, and it looks cinematic. It genuinely does, And I couple that. Well, what do I couple? What am I saying? A couple? I don't couple anything. I use the Eterna profile of this camera. The Eterna profile lifts the black. It subdues those highlights. It gives everything a warm, earthy tone. And the saturation is just pulled back ever so slightly. That's the way I feel anyway. And that gives everything a beautiful cinematic quality. So, this thing can practically see in the dark. And I think for the price and for the size and for the weight, this camera delivers exceptional image quality. Throw into the mix that the X-T4 has in-body image stabilization. We are now getting full-on cinematic with this camera. It's superb. Now let's talk about that image stabilization, because I've seen some unfair reviews who treat it like a gimbal. The stabilized sensor is not a gimbal. However, if you like to do nice handheld shots like so, or a gentle walking selfie, it's great. What more can I say? It's smooth. It's fantastic. What about the ergonomics? Ergonomics are important as a solo video creator because you do everything yourself. You don't have a film crew So you need to do everything on your own, probably whilst juggling 2 or 3 other things. So ergonomically, it's got to be a good camera. And ergonomically, I'm going to keep saying that word, ergonomically, this camera's great. Of course, let's start with the obvious. It's got a flippy screen. You know, you can't be a solo video creator without a flippy screen. How else are you supposed to see yourself? I think that's essential. The battery life is outstanding. I'm shooting this video on an X-T3, and the X-T3 is a almost perfect camera, but one of the big downsides with the X-T3 is the battery life was woeful. You know, I'd need to go out with 3 or 4 batteries just to shoot a video. Not anymore. Not with the X-T4. I can pretty much shoot an entire day's vlog on 1 battery. It's great. All of the buttons on the Fuji X-T4 and the dials are customizable. You can assign pretty much any feature to any button. Let me tell you, that is a godsend for a solo video creator. 1 push of a button and you can enable pretty much any feature. The X-T4 with the 18 to 55mm kit lens, a battery and memory cards inserted, weighs in at 930 grams. Again, if you're hiking with lots of gear like I do, every gram matters. So you want a camera that is not too big, heavy or cumbersome. Now this isn't the lightest and smallest on the market, but it's certainly not the heaviest. And I think anything that comes in at less than 1 kilogram definitely has to be a contender. Is this camera durable? Can it withstand everything that I throw at my gear? So far, after 2 months, the answer is yes. It's been out in a dust storm in Iceland and worked perfectly. It's been dropped from 5 feet onto hard-packed dirt, not a scratch on it. And not too long ago, I dropped it from about 4 feet onto granite rock and it bounced. And it was literally not a scratch on it. This thing, I've come to realize, is like a tank. Now what I would say is when I dropped it, both times the screen was in. If the screen was out, it would have snapped off because flippy screens are vulnerable. But if the screen is in, this is a solid camera, and now I work with it a lot more freely because I know it can withstand everything that I throw at it. So as beautiful as the footage looks and as good as the battery life is and as tough as this camera is, there are bugs with it. There are things with this camera that really make me angry, things that grind my gears. So that's what we're going to talk about now, some of the negatives with this camera. The first negative is the most controversial one, I think, and that's autofocus. Now, Fuji have released firmware updates that have improved autofocus, but it's still not perfect, and it doesn't change the fact that I do not trust the autofocus, and I know it's an opinion thing, but I can't sit here and tell you that it's perfect. It's not perfect. I come from a Canon with dual pixel autofocus, and that is perfect. This is not. This should be sold with a bow and arrow because it loves to hunt. When I'm out in the field, I will want to get some B-roll of some distant mountains that I'm photographing. And when I tap on those mountains to lock focus, what happens is it locks focus. And then the camera will go, let me just double check. And then the camera will start hunting and questioning whether or not it is in focus. I see it all the time. When I switch on eye autofocus, for the most part, it does lock onto my face and it works just fine. But every now and again, the camera will go, well, I'm just checking. You know, and because of that, those tiny shifts in focus that this camera does, it just drives me crazy. It can potentially ruin a shot. Now, you can, of course, adjust the sensitivity to the autofocus, and a lot of it depends on the lenses that you use. And I've tried all the settings, I've watched all the YouTube videos, and it still hunts. It's still unreliable. It gets it right most of the time, but that isn't good enough. So as a result, I shoot with this camera manually a lot of the time, manual focus. A lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time it's easier to flick the camera to manual. But that's revealed a bug, a ghost in the machine, a bug in the camera that has almost caused me to lose shot. In fact, it has caused me to lose shots. Let me quickly demonstrate. Now, the way I would work when I'm out in the field creating a video for this channel is I'll switch the camera on. I'll switch it to autofocus, and I will tell the camera to focus on those mountains. autofocus, lock onto the mountains, then switch to manual. And that way I know that when I pan around to get a shot of the mountains or whatever, the camera's not going to be hunting back and forth looking for anything and everything to focus on. It's just going to be locked on. But there is a problem because I work very fast in the field. And what I'll do is I'll be in autofocus, I'll focus on the mountain, switch to manual, hit record. And look what happens. Did you see that? I don't know if you saw that on the screen. It recorded for only 1 second. And during that 1 second of recording, I will look down, see that it's recording, and then I'll get my shot. But I'm unaware that it's stopped recording. Now, it only does this if you go from autofocus to manual focus and then hit record, and you do those 3 actions too close together. It will, for some reason, will record for a second. Now, if you know about this problem, not a big deal. You just flick to manual, wait a second, and then hit record. But you will know, if you're a solo video creator, you will know that you have to work fast. And sometimes everything's happening, you're juggling many balls at once, and you've got to get the shot. Well, that bothers me. So, you know, it's ruined it. Ruined a couple of shoots for me. And it's just something you've got to be aware of. And I think with expensive cameras, yeah, they'll probably get fixed with a firmware update. I hope. So the problems with the autofocus, I can live with, okay? I get it. Its autofocus is difficult. You know, I don't even want to think of the science that goes into that. But there's another problem with this camera that has ruined entire shoots for me, and it's an unacceptable problem, and it infuriates me. It really does. And that is the audio. Now, when I have a camera, when I'm filming with a camera, I'm not an audio engineer. I'm not, you know, I don't understand, know, or care about audio. All I know is I want it to be as good as it can be. So when I plug in my mic, this is a Rode Video Micro, I will, in any camera, whether it's a Canon or a Fuji, whatever, I will go into the menu and I will select Auto Audio Levels. And then I will forget about the audio because I know that it's just going to do its job nice and well and I'm going to get good, clear audio. Well, no, absolutely not the case with the Fuji X-T4. There is this bizarre thing that when you're on auto levels and you're outdoors and if it's a bit windy, you get this horrible digital interference, this digital clipping caused by the wind. I've brought my Fuji X-T3 because I knew I was doing a big hike, so I wanted something lightweight. I'm going to err on the side of caution and go for 1/8 of a second, just so I don't blow out any highlights, because this film is, you know, there is no margin for error. Now, we all know about wind noise. That's why I've got this big furry thing on here. It's to cut down on that wind noise. And what you get is this low, bassy rumble. And I think that can be an asset to your videos because, you know, it sets the scene. It gives it ambience. It lets the viewer know that it's windy, right? But when you're in auto, and there's a bit of a low rumble from the wind on the fluffy bunny thing, you get this clipping that's like when you've got a mobile phone next to the camera, this interference, and it's unusable and it's horrible. And it took me so long to figure out what it was. I thought it was the cable, I thought it was the mic, I didn't know, I couldn't recreate it, I couldn't figure out where this interference was coming from. Turns out that it does it when in auto levels and it's windy. That's as much information as I can give you. I have no idea what's causing it. So what you have to do is now, unfortunately, with this camera, I'm forced to shoot my audio manually. And that's not a problem until it's a problem. So you've got to set your levels manually, and that's okay. But what if I'm out one day and it's really windy, so I drop my levels because I'm shouting at the camera because it's windy? And then the next day or the next minute or whatever, I forget. And then I'm talking to the camera normally, but it's really quiet because I've dropped my levels, or vice versa. It's only going to be a matter of time until I forget to change the audio levels and I end up clipping audio or something like that and having to go into the menu and just bad. It's the biggest problem with this camera. So that's my honest review of the Fuji X-T4 from a video creator's standpoint. Now let's summarize. If you want to up the production quality of your project or on your YouTube channel, I honestly don't think you can find a camera that delivers much better image quality than the X-T4. The video out of this is sensational. The autofocus still needs further improvement, and it will be a while before I trust it fully, but that's because I come from a Canon. But I do think it's getting there, and it is good, you know. It's good. It's good 90% of the time. It's good most of the time, but just not all of the time. There are a few bugs with this camera. There are a few bugs with all cameras. The great thing about bugs in a Fuji is that you know that the manufacturers are likely to bring out a firmware update to address those bugs. The Fujifilm are very good for doing that. So all in all, I think if you want a camera that delivers exceptional value, exceptional video quality in a small, reasonably lightweight package in a tough body, you can't do any better than the X-T4. You really can't. And you know what? I've not even, as a landscape photographer, I've not even mentioned the stills capabilities of this camera. But that is a video for a whole other time. I've commented many occasions about the quality of the X-T3, which is the same processor and sensor as this camera. So today's video was all about video. I genuinely hope that this piece of content, this review, has maybe helped you make a decision as to which camera you want to buy. I really do. Thank you so much for watching. Allow me 30 seconds to plug my landscape photography calendar that contains 12 images, 12 landscape images shot by myself. And they're all in there, and I'm very proud of this calendar. And that's available, and I'll put a link below. So, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.